There is a story in the book of Numbers that is, by any measure, one of the strangest in the entire Bible. It involves a pagan prophet, a foreign king, a talking donkey, and an angel with a drawn sword standing in a road. It is also one of the most psychologically precise stories in the whole Bible. It is a story about the suppression of what is true, about what happens when a human being has committed so completely to a particular course of action that they can no longer hear what is trying to speak to them from somewhere deeper than their plans. We read it today with Rollo May, the American existential psychologist who spent his career thinking about creativity, anxiety, and what he called the daemonic, the deep, often disruptive force in the human psyche that refuses to stay silent. Let me tell you who Balaam is. He is a prophet, not an Israelite prophet, but a Mesopotamian seer, understood in the text and in its original context to be genuinely gifted. When Balaam blesses, it holds. When he curses, it holds. He's the real thing. And the king of Moab, a man called Balak, wants to hire him. The Israelites are camped in the plains of Moab on their way from Egypt to Canaan. There are a lot of them, and Balak is afraid. He sends messengers to Balaam with fees for divination and a request. Come and curse these people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Balaam's first response is correct. He invites the messengers to stay the night while he consults God. God comes to Balaam in the night and says, "Do not go with these men. Do not curse his people, for they are blessed." Balaam refuses. The messengers go home. Balak sends more messengers, more distinguished than the first, and the promise of greater honor. And here is where the psychology begins to get interesting. Balaam says, "Even if Balak gave me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything against the command of the Lord my God. But stay the night here also, that I may know what more the Lord will say to me." Notice what has happened. Balaam has already received the answer. He knows what God said. He has told the messengers what God said, and he asks them to stay while he checks again. Rollo May, in his great work, The Courage to Create, and in his clinical writing on the daemonic, was interested in the ways that human beings suppress what they already know, not through ignorance. We usually know more than we act on, but through the complicated interplay of desire, ambition, social pressure, and the particular kind of self-deception that comes when we want something very much and find reasons why the obstacle to it might be negotiable. May used the concept of the daemonic, which is took from the ancient Greek tradition, not with any notion of evil, to describe the deep, non-rational forces in the psyche that carry our most fundamental energies. The daemonic is not inherently destructive. It is the force of our nature pressing for expression. But when it is suppressed, denied, or channeled too narrowly, it tends to erupt in distorted forms. In Balaam's case, what May would identify as the suppressed daemonic is not some great dark impulse. It is simpler than that. It is the desire for the reward, the house full of silver and gold that Balak offered, the honor, the sense of his own importance as the prophet, the powerful king of Moab, needed to neutralize the threat from the plains. Balaam has heard the divine word clearly. He has heard, no. And the desire for what is being offered is strong enough that he goes back to ask again, hoping perhaps that this time the answer will be different. God in the text gives Balaam permission to go, but he says, "Only do what I tell you." And then in the verse immediately following, we are told that God's anger was aroused because Balaam went. This is one of those moments in the Hebrew Bible where the divine will appears to contradict itself, and where what the text is actually doing is registering the difference between what God permits and what God wants. Balaam has pushed for permission until he got it, but what he has received is not a blessing, it is the rope he asked for. He saddles his donkey and goes with the princes of Moab, and then the story becomes extraordinary. The angel of the Lord stands in the road to oppose him with a drawn sword. 3 times. Balaam cannot see the angel, but his donkey can. The first time, the donkey turns off the road into a field. Balaam strikes her to get her back on the road. The second time, the road narrows between 2 walls, the walls of vineyards on either side, and the donkey, seeing the angel, presses herself against the wall and crushes Balaam's foot. He strikes her again. The third time, there is nowhere to go. The angel stands in a place so narrow there is no room to turn right or left. The donkey lies down under Balaam. He strikes her again with his staff. And then the Lord opens the mouth of the donkey. What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times? And Balaam, and this is what May would find most extraordinary, answers the donkey. Not what is happening, not why is my donkey talking. He answers her as if the conversation is normal. Because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand, and then I would kill you. The donkey says, am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden all your life long to this day? Is it my habit to treat you this way? And Balaam says, no. Then the Lord opens Balaam's eyes, and he sees the angel standing in the road with the drawn sword, and he bows to the ground. The angel says, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? I have come out as an adversary, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let her live. Rollo May would read the donkey as the carrier of what Balaam has suppressed, because the donkey can see what Balaam, for all his prophetic gifts, cannot see. And the donkey has been trying, in the only way available to her, to communicate it to him. This is precisely the structure of the daemonic as May described it. The suppressed truth does not disappear when it is denied. It finds other channels, in dreams, in symptoms, in the body, in what we might call coincidence. It presses from below, finding whatever outlet it can, and usually the person who is suppressing it meets its pressure with the same response Balaam gives his donkey: irritation, and then force. You have made a fool of me. This is the voice of the ego under pressure from what it is trying not to hear. The donkey, the body, the instinct, the deeper knowing, has 3 times tried to stop him. 3 times has done what a donkey does when it doesn't want to go somewhere: turned off the road, pressed against a wall, lain down. And 3 times Balaam has responded with violence, with the imperative to override the signal and proceed. Rollo May wrote that this kind of suppression always has a cost. The cost is not moral in the simple sense, it is psychological. The person who silences what is true in them, who overrides the deeper signal in pursuit of the desired goal, becomes progressively less able to see clearly. They are not simply choosing wrongly in the moment, they are actively closing down the capacity for accurate perception. Balaam is a prophet who cannot see the angel in the road. He can only see it when the donkey's conversation has interrupted the trance of his forward momentum, when, for a moment, the absurdity of arguing with a talking donkey has broken through his certainty. What I find most psychologically exact in the story is the moment when God opens Balaam's eyes and he sees what has been there all along, not placed there now, there the whole time, throughout all 3 swerves of the donkey, throughout all 3 blows of the staff. The angel did not arrive when Balaam was ready to see him. He was there already. Balaam's seeing was simply restored. May calls this the recovery of what he termed the daemonic intelligence, the body-based instinctual non-rational knowing that we share with animals, and that modern rational consciousness has learned to suppress. The donkey's intelligence was correct. The prophet's sophistication was wrong, and the restoration of Balaam's sight is the restoration of contact with the kind of knowing he had overridden. The story ends with Balaam going to Balak and 4 times in succession blessing Israel rather than cursing them. He cannot do otherwise. What he knows is what he knows, and having had his sight restored at the side of the road, he cannot unsee it. How can I curse what God has not cursed? How can I denounce what the Lord has not denounced? The prophet, who could not see the angel, does finally what the prophet was made to do. But he had to lose an argument with his donkey first.